Yeah, I'm now happy to have here Carin here, and I think it's good to come now to Carin because Hector is a freelancer, and to be a freelancer has some cool sides when you sit on your balcony in the sun and with your drink. But I think the bad side as a freelancer is when you must finish your job on Christmas Eve. And Carin will tell you something about the good and the bad sides about freelancing in the artist scene. And she comes from the Netherlands. One of my, I like the speech from the Netherlands, and maybe you can make it in Dutch.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Carin. Like Hector, I'm a part-time teacher and also an animator working remotely for multiple game companies. And today I'm going to talk about what it's like to work for game companies working remotely, so from your home and still having good communication and have everything scheduled and planned. So, first, a little bit about me. This is a picture a colleague of mine drew of me with a dinosaur pet. And I like to ride motorcycle. I'm telling you all this because you have a little bit of background about me, because I'm telling the things out of my perspective, how I perceive doing the freelance job. Okay. I like to collect nerdy jewelry, so necklaces and earrings, and I occasionally draw whenever I have the time, but I rarely have time. I love Star Trek. I would love to work at Blizzard Entertainment one day as an animator. So that's my, well, life goal. The Lion King is a great inspiration for me. And I love Guinness. Every Friday, I gather with my old colleagues because I come from Leeuwarden, the northern part of the Netherlands, and there are 7 game companies in Leeuwarden alone. And Leeuwarden is a really big city. But every Friday we gather and drink Guinness together at the Irish pub. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. Also very good to build your network. I heard someone laugh. That's good. Because I think the most important thing with animation is to make someone laugh or evoke an emotion. So that was some of my work. And most of the animations you see there were from Quantum Siege, which is a game developed by Armada Interactive. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So how did I get there? It all started with this guy. This is Francesco Cohn, and he was my teacher while I was at the university. And he also knew a guy named DJ People. And they used to work together at PlayLogic in Amsterdam way back before the company discontinued. And he co-founded Armada Interactive, a mobile games company based in Helsinki in Finland. And he was looking for an animator. So he asked Francesco, do you know an animator? And he knew me. So it's very important to have connections, because that's the way you land your jobs and find freelance work to do. like Hector, I also have the pleasure of just choosing my projects, only doing the stuff I really like to do. And that's a huge privilege, I think. So they asked me, come to Finland. And, well, I really couldn't at the time because my mother was very sick. And so I wasn't comfortable leaving the Netherlands back then. And so I asked, can I do it remotely? Because they were looking for an animator to make all the animations and all the rigs of the game. But I really wanted to do this project because it sounded very cool. It was sci-fi mobile game with a turnaround mechanics. You can create your own armies, and those were half mech, half human. So I really wanted to do this project, but I couldn't come over there. So yeah, I started working remotely for them. This is a screenshot of the game to show you a little bit how it looks. So you have this turntable mechanic. You can turn around the battlefield. You can drag and drop units, and you have to destroy the gate, which is in the middle of the picture. This is the view from your army select. You can inspect your units. But then my first problem arose. No time, because I was working full-time at Grendel Games, a game company, and I was teaching 1 day a week. So I had to do it in the evenings and in the weekends, but making 48 different characters, and there were a lot of different characters, each with their own personality. I had to figure something out, how to do it. And it says, I hope I get multiple personalities. Well, I did. Every character had, well, you can't read it from there, but a lot of biography. Their whole backstory, where they were born, how they grew up, what their personality was like. So yeah, you had 48 characters. They needed 9 animations each. This is Ulf, and these are his 9 animations. So you have 3 attacks, 1 marketing animation used for Facebook and stuff, an idle, a walk, an upgrade animation for in the army inspect, a death, and a stun. So every character needed these 9 basic animations. Oh yeah, and I also had 3 levels of detail. So that meant 3 different character rigs, also different animations for the army view and the in-game view. So this is an example of the army view, the inspect. You can turn around it and watch it. This is in-game, so these are different models. And for the in-game models, we had 2 different levels of details. So 1 for high-end devices and 1 for low-end devices. If you don't know what level of detail is, it's a lighter version of a model. So less polygons, less heavy to render. So if you do the math, it's about 1,300 animations that I had to make, and yeah, I didn't have time for that. And I really didn't want my schedule to look like this, working during the day at Grendel Games and every evening working for Armada, maybe drink a beer on Saturday. So, yeah, now what? I really wanted to do this, but I had to figure out some neat tricks to be able to do it. So I tried to make an overview of my pipeline, which I used for creating the animations. I hope it's a little bit clear. So I first received the LOD0, which is the most high quality model. You can see it in the Army Inspect. And I created the rig for that, created the animations for the Inspect view. And then I transferred that rig to the LOD1, which was lower resolution. And I reduced the bones, so it would have attributes like a bag or hair. I would remove bones there to make it still look good, but less detail. And the LOD2 was the very, very low poly version of the character. And I reduced the bones even more and only used the most necessary things. He didn't have toes, he didn't have, he had one spine bone. So really simple. I created the animations for LOD1 and then retarget them in 3ds Max to the LOD2. So sometimes I had to do some small tweaks, but yeah, it looked okay. And the trouble with Unity and maybe also Unreal, I don't know for sure, is you can't use the same animation on a model with a different hierarchy. So if you remove one spine bone, you remove one bone from that hierarchy and your animation doesn't work. So that's why I chose to retarget the animations in 3ds Max. And this is an example of the 3 different LODs. And the first 2 LODs look very similar, but you can see in the cloak that it has less polygons. So they share exactly the same animation, except for the last one, and that one is a bit more subtle because it's for the army inspect view. And the first 2 ones are in-game, and since the character is like this big on your device, it has to be a lot bigger. I also slightly adjusted animations. So the characters needed 3 animations, 1 critical hit and 2 regular attacks, but 2 for variation, so you wouldn't see the same attack over and over again. And to save time, I used the same animation in some cases and just added slightly variations. So you can see that every time he uses his hands differently in a different direction. And when you see them side by side, it looks a lot of the same. But in game, it's actually nice to see him doing all these stuff, but still have the same pace to the attack animation, so you can anticipate the attack. You know when he is firing his projectile, because the timing is always the same. I also mirrored animations, so I first made one attack and then mirrored it, tweaked it a little bit. Like you can see the feet, they're not exactly mirrored. That saved me a lot of time. I used same animations across characters, only when they fit the personality. So I thought this death animation, because when you create animations for so many characters, when you made a death animation for your 40th time, and they all have to be different, you kind of lose your inspiration and you don't know how to kill a character this time. So yeah, it's also very practical to just sometimes reuse stuff, and the players don't see it. They're not like, oh, this one uses the same death animation as this one. As long as you show the character in the basic animations, like the idle pose has to be very unique for a character, and the walk cycle, I think those 2 are the most important. Attack animations are almost always different because they all have a different weapon, or they are ranged, or they have a used Gatling gun, or so I'm forced to make unique animations for that. But whenever possible, just reuse, share, mirror. Here I took the same concept, like going up first and falling down, and just tweaked it a little bit to fit the character. I also used a shared rig and shared animations. For these guys, these are the constructs, and you use them to break down walls and to bash in the quantum gate. And they all have the same personality. They're all bulky, they're all they're very strong. So it wasn't really logical to create different animation for each animal version of it. So they share all share the same rig and the same animations. So that comes down to 220 animations, and that was doable for me. I had about 1.5 years at the time. Working in the evenings and the weekends, it would be busy, but I could handle it. So I did it. I accepted the gig. My second problem was I was not on location. So yeah, how do you handle communication? How do you receive feedback? For me, it was my biggest worry that the communication would go wrong, or since you're not working face-to-face, or you can't just walk to a team member. I thought communication was very important, and it really helped me. We used Slack within the company, and that's a great way to keep up to date with everything that's going on inside of the company. And it's very important to not assume things. If you're not sure what someone else means, just ask. In this instance, we were talking about the architects, and they needed new weapons. And I thought he was talking about the architects, but it was about the minions of the architects. Those would get new weapons. So yeah, it's important to just ask if you're not sure. Plan ahead, which is very important, especially if you don't have a lot of time. This is a screenshot of an Excel sheet from a project I'm working on right now. It's for a different company, but it's the same principle. You really want to look in your agenda and see when are you very busy, when do you have lots of time. You can see in the end, I've got more characters done, 2 characters a week, than right now, because there's a summer holiday on school, so I have the week off, so I can do more work. So it's very important to think ahead and plan your time. Get as much information as you can. When I first started, one of the first animations I made for a female character, I just made a female walk, and I sent it over, and they were like, "Yeah, it's too sexy. We have more sexy characters, and this one is very sturdy and strong." And that's when I realized I really need an overview to see which characters are coming, what could I expect, so I could level the personalities, if that makes sense. So I got a lot of detail for each character, and this really, really helped me, because I exactly knew what his character was, how I could convey it in animations, what his little traits were, his special attacks. It's very important to get as much detail as you can about each character and get a reference. And this applies for every animation, not only freelance or remote. I use this reference for this character. And play. So I used some of the moves I saw in that video to animate this character, and yeah, it worked out okay. I first made the left animation. This is a walk cycle, and I sent it over, and they were, "Oh no, she's not organic. She's very mechanic, so it has to be very rigid and machine-like." So I made the second animation, and this, oh, okay, and then the notes you get on your first animations you can use for the rest of the animations you make. So I knew every other animation I was making it had to be rigid and mechanic. So check early with your art director. Be transparent. I found it very reassuring also for myself, because for me, it's a lot of fun to, I really love animation. So for me, it's doing my hobby and getting paid for it. And it still feels weird that people are actually paying me to do this, to make animations. So I think it's very important to be transparent about how you spend your hours. Also for them, I also include my pie chart every month, so that they can see how much time I spend in each department. So if they want to save time on something, they know where the biggest chunk of time goes into. Before sending it over, I always check my work in Unity, because I didn't have access to the project, the Unity project of the game. So I created a scene for myself to check the animations, if they are all working properly, if the skin was all right. And yeah, this proved really, really useful for myself. And as you can see, even though I copied a lot of animations, you still have quite a lot of variation in character and in movement. They're not all doing the same. So yeah, I have some personal notes on working remotely. It's a very, very nice thing that you can work when you're most productive. I like working at night, and I'm not a morning person. So yeah, most of the time I make late nights till 3 o'clock, and then have to work the next morning at school teaching. But that's fine for me. I would rather have that than stand up at 7 in the morning and start working then. The drawback is, though, sometimes you just need to have something done, and when you're not productive at that moment, yeah, that's a bummer. But you have that in all fields. Work is never finished. So in the weekends, when I really like to drink beers with friends and go to parties and just do relaxing stuff in the weekend, as everyone does. But you're always thinking, the work's not finished. I still have to do so many animations, and you really got to learn to switch that off sometimes, to just, okay, now it's time to relax. I'm not going to think about it at all, because otherwise you'll go crazy. I would be burned out by now if I didn't do that. Visiting the company feels like a guild meeting. I don't know if any of you play World of Warcraft or have played it in the past, but when you're in a guild and you play with those people every day, doing raids together, talking to each other on team chat, but you have never met them in real life, and sometimes you just plan a guild meeting, and you meet everyone, and it's really fun to finally put faces to the names and to the characters. It kind of feels the same with working remotely, at least for me. It's a lot of fun. Lonely animator, because you're alone at home, in my case. And sometimes I would really like to have a team of animators to spar your ideas with, to get feedback on your work. So yeah, that's not a fun part of it. But luckily nowadays you have things like Discord, Twitch, all communities online. I found Twitter a very, very active animation community. So everyone is giving a lot of feedback on each other's work, supporting each other, sharing neat tricks. And so yeah, it's very important to stay up to date with your craft. But in the end, it's totally worth it, because this.
Let's take them down.
else. So, my takeaway, things that I found most important and I really want you to take home, is network is very important. Don't ever speak ill about someone. Always be nice to people in general. It's going to bite you in the butt if you don't do it. Because the community is so small. If you do something wrong, people will know. Communication is key. Very important to just communicate with your employer. Schedule your time well. Improve your craft. So always try to improve on your skills. Don't overwork. Plan your relaxed moments and be smart. So reusing animations or in whatever way possible, just minimizing your work and still staying creative. So that was it. Thank you. Are
Thank you,
there
Carin,
any
for
questions?
your nice talk. Present, you must wait one moment. Some question from the audience.
Don't ask the why question.
Yeah, but why? Now, what, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of deal did you have? Was it the per asset deal or per hour
Per hour.
deal? Oh, it was per hour deal. Okay. So when you kind of cut down the animations and suggested improvements, it was kind of you are helping them as well as you did for yourself, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, short answer, sorry.
More questions?
Will you ever move to Finland, or is this not an option for you?
No, because this project is now finished. Sorry. Probably there will be some work in the future, small animations, but not like a full-time job for me now. And I like it way too much, freelancing, because you have a lot of variation working for different game companies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask, how did you come to animation? Did you made it maybe earlier some, I don't know, 2D stuff, or maybe did you learn some theories like this, or how was your journey?
Well, I first wanted to become a concept artist. So I drew a lot, and then I started school, and it was a very broad education. And then I discovered 3D, and I really liked 3D modeling. And then we were making a short animation, and nobody wanted to do the animation part. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I found it a lot of fun. I really, really like animation, and that's where I started.
So you just kind of like, I started.
Yeah, I just stumbled upon it and liked it, yeah.
What can you recommend to a person when they are like at the beginning of 3D animation?
Animation principles?
No. What maybe kind of make your life easier?
Yeah, the animation principles.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, that's.
Those
sure.
will make your life easier.
Yes.
When you learn to master them and implement them to your work and really understand it, why you are doing it, your animations will improve so much because they cover everything.
Yeah. That's okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, or?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, there's one more question.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. We're actually working on a project that will need like very specific and anatomical referenced movement. Do you have any experience with like muscle rigs or
No, sorry.
no? Okay, thank you.
Last question. No more? But I have always one last question. Is there a project or a company in the market, maybe Johannes with a cool film project, where you say, okay, this project, I come to your country or to your company, like Blizzard or something else?
Yeah, Blizzard. I would love to work at Blizzard one day. Or Riot Games also has a really nice style of animation. I really like the stylized animation and not really the realistic side of animation, like motion capture. I know how to do it, but for me, it's not a lot of fun. So yeah, companies with that style can really persuade me. Yeah.
Okay, maybe Blizzard hear your talk today. What are the different the aspects to be a freelancer, or what is the hardest things for you? Is it the socializing, what you are missing, or to work at home, or what is for you on your personal side?
I guess the procrastination side of it. Yeah. That you have to do work and then you save it for the last moment, and then you have to do a lot of work in less time.
Yeah.
And also feeling guilty when you're off the job. So the combination of those two things, procrastinating and then feeling guilty when you're actually relaxing, it's not a good combination.
No, it's not a good combination. Thank you very much for your very interesting talk and your present from you.
Thank you.